welcome to Dear 2020, and I guess today I'm gonna have ginger beer with you guys because that's the only drink that I can have at this point. I know that I'm kind of recording this a little bit early, but not really. Based on the astrology calendar, it's already the new year, so this is how I'm gonna start it. So I'm gonna be changing my channel, and I kind of don't want to disappoint you as well, but I'm gonna change this channel, maybe cooking and sewing. What do you guys think? I think I'm gonna retire the whole scientist stuff, and I'm gonna start doing a cooking and a sewing. Just kidding. Could you just imagine? I don't even know how to do anything of that. If anything, maybe I should learn how to do doing my hair, I don't know, or maybe a cooking show. I'm gonna do something totally different this year, and I kind of just want to just hang out and talk to you. I'm really grateful for having you guys are part of this channel. You know, I work with a lot with on the left side of the brain, and I find that this channel kind of gives me that creativity. So I'm really grateful that I got to share some of the experience that I have gone through. Especially, I'm always going to be a Vedic astrology student, or even including in medicine. I just always feel like there's so much information out there that I feel like maybe it's a little bit more like I don't have enough. But I'm always feeling like, you know, when you write your exam, you feel like you have an imposter syndrome at that moment, and you're like, why am I here? Am I really in the best fit in my field? And that's sometimes what I feel most of the time. And yeah, I just feel like astrology, you can't really lie to people that you are an astrologer. I don't know anybody who wants to be like a fake astrologers out there. Either you know your stuff or you don't know your stuff. And I think that's the same thing with science. I don't think you can fake it till you make it. I really don't. And yeah, so I really want to share a quick story about a relationship before I kind of dive into what was happening in 2020 for me and just sum up what's been going on. So just give me 2 minutes about like my little story about relationship when it comes to astrology or being an astrologer. I know that like a lot of guys out there, if you maybe you can kind of give me some comment down below if you have came up with some sort of scenario or situation that you would, they rather, especially there's certain type of archetype men that is not really connected to the feminine side, and that which is the anima part of it. They rather be telling their family or their friends that, from my experience, that either I was a forensic accountant or this is a joke, or a stripper, or something else like a fitness instructor, but never ever they would ever announce that she's an astrologer and that's how she makes her money, or she's a scientist. Never an astrologer, because it's hokey pokey, right? It's like the Harry Potter. It's like it's too cool to be the Harry Potter. So I find that if a man does not accept you as a whole and it's separated, they're not really the right fit, and they might be challenging with their internal anima, which is their feminine side, because there's a spiritual context with it as well. And if they have taken, what do you call it, physics or anything like that, you have to calculate time and different dimensions, and that's beyond the X and Y axis. That's what I'm talking about. So you have to have that mentality of thinking beyond like the Harry Potter stuff. And maybe the brain doesn't operate that way, and I have noticed those things. But yeah, if a man doesn't accept you for who you are, honestly, that's totally cool. I'm the whole me. You gotta love the whole thing of me, and the strangest thing about me, and the science part of me, and the astrology part of me, because that's just who makes up who I am today. So cheers to that. So for all those men out there, if they have Googled me and found out I'm also an astrologer, that's totally cool. I'm an astrology student, always, number one. And all I have to say to that is, ya nos conocimos. That's what I have to say to them, and that's a little bit my little tease there. So let's kind of sum up what's happening in my life in 2020. I know it was a huge change for everybody in this world, and and I have to find the silver lining, because I feel if you go into the negative space and you get stuck in there and it pulls you in there like a black hole, and then you'll be fixated. It's that little rabbit hole. And I don't recommend anybody be in that place, but that's where I didn't want to bring my mindset. I know the world has completely changed. There's so much regulation and people are divided as well. And I think it's important as well that you find the little grateful things that you have. And maybe because I have a nice Jupiter, and maybe because I'm really hopeful and I have really great teachers to help me understand the meaning of the world or space and time. So the things that I was able to kind of pick up during this quiet time is like Spanish. So I picked up a little bit of Spanish there. So you hear me a little bit, but you can correct me, but I'm working on it. Sanskrit, I have taken Sanskrit class, so I'm really excited for that as well. I almost jumped into the whole idea of wearing sweatpants and sweat clothes, and I was like, you know what, I did order it, a whole bunch of them, and then I just made a decision that I just couldn't do it. Because honestly, the worst thing that you can do, if you're already feeling down, at least try to, put some clothes on that makes you feel good. So I'm here to present with you guys. So I'm really excited for that. So, and I know that there was a big trend in LA about like tie-dye. And when there was a lockdown, that's what I was trying to do as well. And I think the rest of California was doing the same thing as well. Tie-dye I didn't have any much white clothes that I want to like tie-dye with, and it wouldn't hold the colors. So I kind of jumped on that trend. But however, I did invest into a nice silk robe for this year, and that's what I wore after, if I'm not working in certain labs or whatever I was doing, I would be wearing silk robe all day long, and I was very happy with that. And let's get to the dark side. I do have like the pros and cons, and just where my moon is, I guess where my mindset is. I'm all about like pros and cons. And so I knew that, like, based on my own chart, I looked at this way beyond. And don't get me wrong, I don't look at my own chart. I have other astrologer to help me and look at some of my stuff, and I'm really grateful for that. It's not about how much you know and you should be able to read your chart. It's not about that. I think outside of yourself really is more about that, learning it from an outside exterior. Based on my solar return of the year, that I'm going to be locked up, and I already knew that, and it was not looking really presentable that I'm really active. It looks like I was either in the cave or the hospital or in jail, but I'm hoping none of that really was part of it. But it sounds like I was locked up in my house. So nothing really has changed for me for business wise. I always have operated online. Yes, and hair is not a priority. Nails was not a priority. And I totally get that. So it was a really interesting place to be in. And because I'm such an introvert, I know extrovert's a little bit different, and I noticed the shift of that, and I know that I get calls for those things and adjusting what's going on in this world. So I was kind of prepared for it, to be honest with you, and I have a wonderful conversation with spiritual people and other astrologers, so we're kind of aware of what was going to happen. So that kind of helps me prepare what was going to be expected. But due to the circumstance, I live between states, and obviously I don't travel light, and there's other factors that are involved as well. I'm aware there's so much suffering that's happening in the world, not only like job, income, housing wise, and just the Maslow hierarchy is being at threat at the moment. And I know that in America it's pretty rough as well, just alone but I know that a lot of people are divided by love as well. So across the border, and including myself. So I know that I also suffer within my family a death this year, and that was a bit of a challenge. I did predict that, and I did tell my family about it as well, and they're aware of it. I also calculate the time and the death and who it was. So they were prepared. I was able to prepare before it actually did happen. And thank God it actually happened after the first lockdown. So I'm really grateful for skills that I have and tools that I have, and be able to calculate something like that for my family, because there's so much uncertainty. And when there's some sort of stuff that was happening, you want to know, like, when is it going to end? I'm going to give you a little bit insight what I have been doing with astrology. I don't close off a whole idea of not reading astrology charts for people out in the public. I find that prediction, if you never have experienced it, it's a little bit hard to kind of like gravitate or understand it, or even be self-aware. I'm going to be talking about Freud's work about the unconscious and the idea in the ego state. And that kind of gives you a clear idea. If you're not aware of it, you never experience it. So it's almost a prediction is almost pretty useless. But if you're preparing for somebody for the upcoming, I guess, mishaps or incidents or something like that, or misfortune, I think it's a way better steps to prepare for that than the ones that are calculating the great things that you're going to actually predict. But I think it's hopeful. I know that card readings are really popular out there, and that's just great, hopeful. And maybe that kind of, it has a negative connotation to it. I think it has a negative feedback to the brain as well, and how you feel, and it really affects your nervous system. So I just don't want to make things that are not a hopeful situation. It's a really dead end. It's like it's a done deal. I think it's be realistic. It's like, look, there's great opportunity. I need you to look at different avenue or different doors. I know I sound like a motivational speaker, but it's really true. It's like, if it's not working, let's look at other options, what is working, and we need to focus on those doors. And so that's what I do with a lot of my readings. I'm so grateful for all the clients and anyone that has purchased my program. I'm so grateful for that I could service them and make them a better person. I know it's a little bit pricey, but what I intentionally did this year was, I knew there was a lot of trauma that was happening this year, and I wanted to do something that is more affordable. And if you are somebody who is a frontline worker and is working in the hospital, or is a doctor and it's going through some PTSD or trauma, or has such high anxiety and stress load, I created a program. Honestly, it goes from $5 to $60, and that's the best way to contact me. I don't really release any of my personal contact, because I really want to focus on developing either the skills that I already have, become the better doctor that I can be, or do a better research in the area of trauma and brain and anything like that. I really want to make sure that I have the bandwidth to do that, and to give my time. And of course, you guys subscribe to my channel, so that's really helpful, that I have an audience to build on and interact with as well. So it's really grateful. I'm really grateful for that. Doctor, anybody is kind of going through some sort of trauma, a little bit of a help understanding, how to contain that, shift those emotions. I honestly didn't build a program just for myself, and honestly, I want to be accessible. And I wish I had it in times of I think I bombed the medical exam and I feel like I have imposter syndrome right now. You know what I mean? That's the reason why I built those program out there, and it's affordable. It is outside of YouTube, because YouTube is very limiting when it comes to exactly what I can do and what I can't do. And I'm pretty sure if my music is not properly copyrighted, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get dinged. If I'm wearing a spaghetti top, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get dinged for those things that well. And if I don't do my APA reference correctly, they're okay with that. And I'm okay with that. So, there's times that I made predictions. I would get phone calls back from my mom. It's exactly, she was telling me exact minute that you calculate, that phone call came in. And it's wow, that's incredible. And I'm I would pat myself in the back and be yay, I did a good job. And, it was hooray, right? And there's times when I made a calculation where I don't know if they misheard me. Anyway, it's a psychic anyways. So I did a prediction that in LA, the gym's going to close, okay? This is how small, but I make a big deal about it, because I need to know, where I gone wrong and how can I fix it. So it's just a calculation, right? There's just no way that I could. He said that the gym's going to close. Like, he said that to me, that the gym's going to close in 3 weeks. That's what he said, what I said. And I was like, there's no way, because I knew that the Venus is going to go into its fall. There is just no way. And I knew that 3 weeks didn't sound right, because it's really close. It's creeping up to the next house. So, and I knew that Mercury and Venus has the same sort of, roughly the same speed when it comes to movement in the sky. And I knew that. And it's normally by days. I don't know how they got in 2 weeks. But anyways, so sometime they call back and they said, well, you said 3 weeks. And I'm like, I think I'm pretty sure I said 3 days. How did I miss? Did I miss something? Or anyways, so things like that would actually bug me, and I would go back and then would like figure this out. And I was like, I think he misheard me. I really do. And anyways, it's a gym. It's not a big deal. But I told him, like, look, the gym is going to be locked down, so prepare yourself. I did a big deep research this year on bilateral stimulation for EMDR, about the positive with it and without it. And there is absolutely a great positive outcome when it comes to bilateral stimulation, that it does work effectively. If you have not watched about my trauma video, I want you to go back and watch it. There is a part 2 that's coming out, so I'm just slowly getting back into it right now. The biggest thing that I'm not always going to reveal about my personal life, and how I got into medicine and why I got into medicine, real medicine. We're talking about science. Like, I would even put a molecule up here. Maybe you guys can name me, if you are a science student, maybe name me the longest chain on that molecule right there. Yeah, and I'll let you know if you got it right or wrong, because this is always so much fun. I know that as an audience, that somebody's kind of watching me for the first time, and if I get so into the science, which I can, the problem is I would lose you, and because you don't have the fundamental science into it, I can totally lose you, and it just beats the phenomenon. So I kind of keep it basic. And of course, I do answer you have a lot of requests about relationship, and I make videos about it, and I love learning about those things too. And I obviously love including science to it. So I'm really grateful for that. I want to talk about being a scientist and like a little bit more like in the doctor field, or anybody who's kind of doing the PhD sector. I find that, comparing to astrology, I find that astrologers do have a better database on number of testing when it comes to technique, and I really like that. I know that my first teacher has taught me about that. It's like constantly testing all this, and we're talking about hundreds or 50, or we start out with 10 and start building on that and start having records of it. The only problem with astrology, they don't really tell you the number of samples, how accurate based on the tests they have, and who are these people, or and stuff like that. They don't have about that. Maybe they kind of blog about it, but not a whole lot about like database. So anything with an astrology, they're not really good written research and how they write it out as well, but they're really good at testing techniques. They're really, really good at it, especially the scholar astrologers that I go with. I know astrologers are really booked out, varies from practice to practice, and they have every right to do whatever they want to do with their business and how they want to run it, but they're really booked up, and they're very expensive as well. So I totally get that. I know why it's so expensive, because we're kind of using this fund and then going back into the business, and either they're teaching, they're doing readings, and they don't have enough time really writing these research papers that they put it out in the public, unless they're writing a book. That's the only information, but it doesn't tell me like, oh, how many times did you test this, or how many times do you look at this chart and say that Pluto and Mars, or Pluto is actually represent more like a moon than it is with a Mars. So, and how did you find out about that? So I don't see enough of that, and that's why I feel like astrology is considered to be a pseudoscience, because they don't have that, maybe that academic knowledge of how to put it into paper and write it out and put it out in the public out there as well. But I know they're bloggers and stuff like that. So, and I find that a lot of astrologers are so busy doing all that stuff, and they don't have enough time to have new techniques and learn new skills beyond that, and have different teachers and mentors and things like that. So that's what I have found, but I didn't want to do that. I want to do more on the research side, and I'm really grateful for the few challenges that I have came about when I was living in America is the food and the weight gain that I had from last year, and then I kind of like wanted to do something about it. So the first lockdown, what I was focusing on was my weight. I was weighing at 33% of body fat. I was so shocked that that was what I was measuring out. So I really had to clean up about my diet. I know the whole world at that time was having toilet paper issues. So I remember all that part of it. I didn't have that issue because I invested in a bidet, and I kind of install it, and that's what I did. So I really want to focus on the health part of it, working on my gut health and all that factor about just anything with health. And that was the focus that I had this year, to work on my food intake and have eating whole foods and going back working out at home. I don't do any intense workout anymore. I used to when I was training for triathlons and stuff like that, but I just don't do that anymore. I think it's too much for the body, and I just find that I'm getting injured, and it's just not worth it for me. So I kind of just do moderate exercise. That's nothing longer than an hour, anything shorter than that. And I just do 5 days a week, and I'm happy where my body is. So it's all about food. It's not about really lifting weights or how intense it is. So I think September was probably the hardest month for me, because I had to make a decision. And I knew that there was a transit that was happening in December, which we had, which is the 20-year mark of what you want to present yourself, or how well you want to show up in this world. So I knew that that was really important. So I made a decision that, you know what, I want to continue in the medical field, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do that. So where I want to do it, and what's really important for me with my family, and where I am at this place, and what I'm going to do with this wonderful channel, where I want to go with it. Obviously, I'm going to be still making videos, and I made a decision, so I'm going to still always make videos, that I'm going to be using my left brain for this channel and my right brain in the medical field, and that's what I made a decision to do. If I'm worthy of being a doctor, great. If not, then you can find me making cupcakes somewhere in my own kitchen. I don't know, one day. But that's what the decision I made, and I'm just gonna try to have fun with it. If I'm not gonna try to fake it to make it, but I'm definitely have a whole team kind of supporting with me on that, so I'm really grateful for that. So I'm so grateful for understanding death. I'm such an involved person now. And just because through Vedic astrology and understanding what free will and the path that everybody takes, and understand that people wear certain filters. So I'm so grateful for having that experience. So that's really key there. I got a couple ideas that I kind of want to roll out. So you're going to start seeing that. It would be the men's sexual phase, EMDR part 2. A lot of more psychology as well. So my prayers to family who have lost any sort of, or gone through some sort of difficulty for 2020. If I want to shed some light, I know that 2021, by the summer, things are a little bit a change during the summer eclipse. So by 2021, by the summer, you're going to see that big shift on there. So I just want to make sure that everybody still stay hopeful. And as well, by end of January 21, you're going to see there is a bit of change you're not going to see this big gloom and doom, and or things are going to go back to normal. I don't think so. I think we're entering a new set of like different era. I want to call it era, but that's not really correct. But I feel like we're entering in a place that it's like what it's not working in the past. We're gonna be reinventing a lot of these things, and so just kind of be prepared for yourself. Like technology is going to play a big part in our life, and it always will, but it's going to be a huge opportunity. So I think it's yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to have technology be involved in medicine as well, and I think it should be than just only diagnosing through a book. And I really hope you guys find a way to turn off your external noise and really kind of deal with what's going on within. Like I said, I have a wonderful program in Patreon, and yeah, so you guys can go and hang out with me there, and I'm grateful for that. This is Cindy. I'm signing off for 2020, and you can always join me in my new adventure in 2021. We made it. I want to say congratulations because you're watching me today. So the moment I turn off my camera, I'm pretty sure I have 20 more things to say, but I just want to wish you all the very best and my love to you, and be safe and stay hopeful and stay connected to the heart.